just in case. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Where are
forget to
you?
do
Are
that.
you in New York now?
I'm in New York. Yeah. Where are you?
We gotta go and have some tequila together someday, or mezcal. If you get the right mezcal, some of it's
Yeah.
amazing, you know.
Yeah. No, totally. Totally. Where are you in the city?
Um, um, a lot of writers in the history of New York couldn't afford Manhattan and end up in Brooklyn. So
Uh-huh.
I'm out
So you've been in Brooklyn. Yeah.
for about 4 years now. I
Uh-huh.
was in Hell's Kitchen for like 20.
Oh wow. Uh-huh. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of paradise location. I was down the street from MoMA, and Paley was over a couple blocks from there, and it was only 11 blocks up to Lincoln Center, which just kept getting better.
Yeah,
You know,
yep.
um,
It's interesting that they kept saying that Hell's Kitchen was going to get developed and it never really took off.
well, actually, the fact is that Hell's Kitchen and Tribeca have the most restaurants per capita of any place in
Oh, really?
the States. And Tribeca's ahead in per capita, but Hell's Kitchen's 5 times the size of Tribeca.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and they extended Hell's Kitchen. I called it Greater Hell's Kitchen by the time you're up at 54th Street.
Uh-huh.
Suddenly it became, hip to be in Hell's Kitchen. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's actually was called Clinton, but Clinton gave Clinton a bad name or something. They'd rather be Hell's Kitchen than Clinton, you know.
Yeah, that's funny. Huh.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
but it's not a neighborhood like it is on the Upper West Side. There they actually have a neighborhood. They have a lot,
Mm.
just maybe 30% more money, but they're like a neighborhood. In Hell's Kitchen, it's everybody's polite, but it's like, we just pass each other and,
Yeah.
do our
Yeah.
business.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
that's I think it's
where are
less
you
and
staying?
less.
What part of New York?
Well, I used to when I first moved to New York, I was in the West Village and then I lived in NoHo in a loft for years, for like
Mhm.
15, 16 years.
But,
And then, of course, some developers bought it and
oh
then
yeah,
cleared it out. But now
but
I'm on the edge of Gramercy near Kips Bay, 26th
oh,
Street, which
oh,
actually
it's
feels
an
like
interesting little neighborhood.
it is like a little neighborhood. It's like the last place I
They
think in
call
New
it
York.
something Hill.
Well, they call it like a little bit going towards the center, they call it Curry Hill because there's a lot of Indian restaurants. There's apparently like the best vegetarian Indian restaurant of all of New York. But yeah, there's Murray Hill, Kips
Murray Hill,
Bay.
that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and then
I lived
a
there
little
for
bit
a
south.
while once.
Yeah,
Had a year in a room, but
yeah,
there's
but it's
prostitutes down there and
oh
on
yeah,
down the end. It's very quiet there. It's kind of a it's like it's separated off from the rest, and that one they never really pushed
yeah.
further.
Well,
There's not that much space really.
yeah.
It's a good place to
Our
stay.
super told us. Yeah, our super told us our building was a brothel back in the day.
That is so cool.
Which I didn't realize that. There's that film by Lizzie Borden, her second film after she did Born in Flames. It's called Working Girls, and apparently it was
Yeah.
shot all around in this neighborhood. So I'm wondering if it was this building. That would be pretty cool if it was true.
Well, I collect and sell books, and I have a book, and the cover's actually falling off. It's from about 1926 or something, but it's the history of prostitution. And
Mm.
I'm going to read it one day. I refuse to sell that book. There's got
Uh,
to be loads of movies there.
yeah. Huh. So you're an independent book dealer? Is that what you do?
For cash, yeah.
Yeah.
A long time ago in the flea market business. It's probably one of the only places you can legally make cash in America.
Uh,
I mean, we're going to sell cigarettes without the little stamps. You could be a
yeah.
prostitute. You could be a drug dealer. You know,
Yeah.
you do
And
the
then
number.
independent bookseller.
Yeah, I mean, that's much safer than any of the other ones.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah.
You actually don't need a permit in New York to sell books and paper, like art. You can
Oh,
go out
that's
the
interesting.
street with your art. You don't have to pay for it. I didn't know that for years.
Oh,
I'd be
that's
a lot
interesting.
wealthier now if I
Yeah.
had known. But yeah, you can go out there with any paper. Um, Records are on the edge,
That's
and
interesting.
it's
Yeah.
digital. It's very dangerous because they immediately assume it's going to be bootleg.
Bootlegged. Yeah.
Oh,
Sure.
but you're
Yeah.
safe with paper.
That's
So
interesting.
All right, let's get something so I can write this thing up. I'm gonna do the lightning round. This got out
Sure.
of
Yeah, yeah,
order.
no worries.
What I liked about the way it was cut too was it was, and that was why it was conversational. Like it kind of ended each like encounter. There's almost always this one line that like stands out, you know. Um, uh, like for instance, it's very at the end where somebody said it's Sid Feng Shua. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
that was like, boy, he pulled that from somewhere, you know?
Yeah, that was when his friend was talking about burning Sid burning all the paintings, and he said maybe it's
Yeah,
yeah. No, I mean, that was the thing, the editor and I were really, you know, how should I say this? And maybe this is what you were saying earlier about typical documentaries. Like typical documentaries, they just are interested in the information, and
mm,
they think that, and it's always, and the Maisleys didn't do this either. That was what was great about their
yeah,
films,
no, they
you know,
didn't.
that content can come in many different shapes and forms, right? So
Yeah,
it's not
I'll say,
just
let the film tell you.
yeah, so it's not informational, like in that sense. So we're very tuned to that, to keeping things from the interviews that gave personality, but also, just gave some life. Because otherwise, you're just taking like the best bits and pieces,
Mhm.
and constructing this kind of long informational thing.
Yeah, because there's
And
another quote that goes, nobody knows what he was thinking. Everybody, they're just like they're guessing. They're putting their ideas into it, and somebody just says that at one
yeah,
point. You know,
absolutely, yeah,
so then, I mean, everybody was like that. Like we said with not Gilmore,
Roger Waters, yeah, at the end,
Waters saying that
yeah.
philosophical thing. But and then you see Tom Stoppard pop in. Like, how did he end up in there?
Well, that's pretty funny because in doing all the research and stuff and gathering all the material, I read that Tom Stoppard had written this play, Rock and Roll,
Ah,
and I got a copy of it. And I'd known that
ever
Tom
get put
Stoppard.
on?
It's what?
Did anybody ever put it on?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was
Oh,
performed. I think it was performed. I can't remember
must
what
be
year it came
brilliant.
out. Yeah, I can't remember what year it came out, but it's very, very interesting play. But I knew he was a Pink Floyd fan. Like I think he had done some kind of radio play around Dark Side of the Moon. I remember that vaguely, in the back of my brain. But I'd read something that he'd done this play, Rock and Roll, and there was a character named the Piper in it. And
Mhm.
so I immediately thought, oh, I got to go buy. I went down to the, I think Shakespeare and Company was still open at that time, and I bought, a copy of it and I read it. And of course, the Piper was based on this Syd Barrett character. And it's a
Okay.
very, very interesting play because it's sort of about, the political history, that was going on where his family came from, and then set in Cambridge. It was like a back and forth, and so the funniest thing was I called up Storm right after I read the Stoppard thing, and I said, Storm, we've got to interview Tom Stoppard. And Storm said to me, fuck off, Roddy. And Storm often did. He's like, I'm not interested in interviewing Tom Stoppard. And I said, well, no, he's written this play. There's a character called the Piper that's based on like Sid. And he's like, nah, fuck that, Roddy, fuck it. And then literally, and this is classic Storm, 2 weeks later, my phone rings and he's like, hey, Roddy, how are you? And I was like, good, Storm. He's like, we just interviewed Tom Stoppard.
He just did it.
Yeah, so,
No shit.
yeah, so
You
it's,
know, he's still alive and lucid, is he not?
he is. Yep. Yep. He is.
You're
Yeah.
the guy who needs to make the Tom Stoppard film.
Yeah.
And
He's an
while he's
interest.
alive, he's probably, as far as I know, um, the best writer that anybody knows about in
Yeah.
America writing plays.
Yeah. No, he's very, very
You should
interesting.
do that.
Yeah.
Yes. If you do, I would like to be one of the producers.
Okay. I'll think of it. Yeah. I mean, the other writer that popped up in the periphery in the rearview mirror was like an old film teacher of mine, who I'm still friends with. We were talking one day, and he said, "Oh, you've read the DeLillo novel, Great Jones Street,
Ah,
haven't you?"
that
And
was
I said,
quoted in there too. Yes, I saw that
And I
in.
said, no, I don't know. Of course I know, White Noise and some of the other DeLillo things. And he said, "You haven't read Great Jones Street?" And I said, "No." He's like, "Go get it." And I went and got it. And I didn't know this novel, but it's about a reclusive rock musician
Ah,
who turns away from the industry and lives in this loft on Great Jones Street. Now, the uncanny thing is, I lived in a loft on Great Jones Street.
oh shit.
That's what I was making
When you get a
when I was.
synergy like that, you
I
gotta.
know. So anyways, and a friend of mine is one of DeLillo's publishers. So I wrote him, got in touch with his management, and so we got that quote to start off the film, which I thought was pretty great. Because it's all that novel's all about fame, and this
Yeah,
character just not wanting to participate. And so it's interesting. I don't know if he thought of it as Syd Barrett when he wrote that. I have no idea whatsoever.
I'm sure you've seen Performance, right? With
Yeah.
James.
Oh yeah, absolutely. One of
I
my
thought Jagger was so awesome
yeah,
in it.
that's one of my top films. Yeah,
Did you hear the story about the wives and the shit that was going on with the
oh yeah,
director and how
yeah,
he killed himself because he
yeah,
was so obnoxious even to himself? And then
yeah,
Nick Road was then known as a great director, and he was the
yeah,
cameraman. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah. No, it's a weird, also the writer Don, oh God, what was his name? Yeah. Not only I think James Fox, the actor, killed himself, right? But also the
Fox killed
co-writer.
himself too. I didn't
I
know that.
think I think so. Maybe not. Maybe I'm
The
misremembering it.
director who was there, he was
The
supposed to
co-director
uh,
killed himself.
obnoxious. He was actually the director.
Yeah.
Rogue
He
took
went
over.
Yeah, he moved to Paris. Yeah. But he's actually, strangely enough, plays Lucifer in Kenneth Anger's film Lucifer Rising. Like
Really?
there's all this, yeah,
Fox.
there's all the I got obsessed
Great.
with,
Yeah,
yeah, I
you
got
never
it.
saw him much after that, though.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
no, no. Yeah.
he could have. I can't imagine he had such talent. He
Yeah.
was something else.
Yeah, no, I got obsessed with the Nicholas Roeg that film for a while, like when I was in film school. But
Oh,
anyways,
I'll play Memo from Turner all day long.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's
I
great.
actually
Yeah,
wrote a closing lyric to it that gets away from the baby's dead, a,
huh,
a much more updated one that works, I think, really well,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and has a message in it.
That's
I
interesting.
was
Yeah,
going to cover that with my band that I was trying to create. You
huh.
know, my late life, I decided I should play music, and I mean, I don't play too much in a band, but my partner, one of my partners for years is he's just a total musician. He's in, three different bands. He's still trying to break through, you
Huh.
know. And he let me play a couple times with the band and with my harmonica, and then I lost the harmonica, so then I had to go to hand drums, and then I
Uh,
got another harmonica, and someone picked it up when I left my vintage swag Tribeca bag on a ledge, and I had nothing else in it but the harmonica, and it was
oh God.
tape. So now I found I can buy six of them from of the whatever the Rodin, I think it is, for
Oh.
$60, and that's what I'm going to do next. And I'll even know keys then. I double my creativity, being just like an amateur musician over
Mm,
12 years. Doubled it. I thought I was good.
yeah.
Music is really important. They just had studies from Britain. They showed that people avoid, um, uh, Alzheimer's and the dementia
Mm,
much further in if they play music.
yeah, sure. I'm sure it stimulates, you know, neural pathways and, memory and like we were talking about with memory, I'm
Yeah, I
sure
mean,
that,
it's used as healing. People have done pieces about that too in healing, you
yeah,
know, but,
yeah.
you know, music is just so critical. So you're like right at the tap of it,
Yeah, I
and
mean, I was in, bands through college, from high school through college. And then when I started making films in college, I sort of quit doing music. And I was in San Diego at the time. I moved from LA to San Diego. I grew up in LA. And the
Mhm.
strangest thing is like literally 3 years after I quit being in bands was when San Diego became the new Seattle
Ah,
scene. All the bands got signed to labels and things, but it was kind of funny because I played at all those clubs and stuff back then. But it was I still play guitar every day. Just maybe
well, that's good for you. Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
I mean, there's so many people in the industry who actually, even though they're, they don't, I mean, the guy who runs Magnolia.
Mm.
that's a band, and he's great. You know,
Yeah.
and they're a good distributor.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
sure.
very,
Yeah, yeah,
very,
yeah,
very solid.
yeah. Well,
And
like you were saying
and
with
Jarmusch,
timers. Yeah,
They used Jarmusch's music for Godard's last film in Japan last year.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and he's revived Squirrel. Yeah, so
Yeah,
he's gigging around now. Yeah,
one of the
and
coolest dudes I ever met is Jarmusch.
yeah, I know Jim pretty well. Yeah, he's a good guy. I mean,
Yeah.
it's funny because he's a big Syd Barrett fan, which I didn't know, but I know him and his partner Sarah pretty well, and we saw each other one day, and they said, "What are you working on?" And I said, "Oh, I'm doing this documentary about Syd Barrett," and they're like, "Oh my God, you got to send it to us."
Ah,
And then
cool.
it was so funny because I sent them a link and they watched it and they loved it, and then I said I wrote back to them. I was like, "Oh my God, now I got to rewatch." I don't know if you've seen it. This vampire movie they did, only Last
Oh yeah.
Lovers
Now
Left
that's
Blood.
the film that proved that independent film to me, distribution was done
Yeah,
because every single critic in the whole world loved it.
yeah,
Okay.
but couldn't
And
get
it still
widely
grossed
distributed.
only $13 million. I mean, that was the
Mm,
top.
yeah,
I mean, one of
yeah,
the oldest auteurs, back from
yeah,
like Second Wave or something like that, even pre Tarantino.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's got everybody, and this is what happened. I'm sure you had I think it said that this ran in June in America. Was that right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it got theatrically released in New York and LA in July. I think it was July, maybe. I want to say, maybe it was June. I can't remember now.
Said in the thing it was
Uh,
June, but it doesn't mean
yeah,
it's really
but
they're guessing
but
maybe.
yeah, but it was at the Quad in New York, and then they had it for a week, and then
That's
they
the whole
extended
thing.
it. Yeah,
Oh,
they
they gave
extended
you
it for
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then it went for 3 weeks at the
Oh
Quad, which
wow.
was great. Yeah, it was really
That
great.
is really monumental, man, because nobody gets more than a week now. That's what's
Yeah,
killing.
no, and it's been doing really well. It's played in hundreds of theaters. Brahma Rama has been doing the distribution in the States.
Good
I don't know
company.
if you know. I don't know if you know their company, but great. Yeah,
Oh
they're
yeah, I mean, that's the guy in the even does he doesn't talk very much into the public. Carol Martesco is a genius. He's one of my
mm,
heroes.
yeah. So so that's been really good, and it just got picked up for theatrical release in Japan. So it's going to open
Oh
theatrically in
wow.
Japan. Uh, and then it's going to go on Blu-ray and streaming, I think, in a month or so. So the Blu-ray design's already done. Storm's studio designed the packaging. It looks amazing. It's going to have a little poster inside. Um,
Even
so it's
from the
quite
grave, he designs damn
yeah.
post.
It's well his studio. Yeah, his computer design. They still do. They're still around. Storm left thousands of designs, which is kind of
Wow.
crazy. He's got thousands of roughs of covers and things. So occasionally they'll get called to do something still. And Pete, who's the computer, layout guy, he's working with Pink Floyd still, like when they
Yeah,
have
just keep the
repackaging.
AI away from those designs.
Oh yeah, no,
They take over the art world or something.
yeah, no. So
So that's pretty amazing. You had 3 weeks. That's pretty good.
well, yeah,
Still rolling out there then, right?
it's still screening. Yeah, I was I went up to Nyack uh when was it, about a month and a half ago, and we did a one night screening. It was great, sold out,
Oh,
really great response,
that's
and
an interesting
I
place.
joked with them. I said, so this film's been playing in the theaters longer than Barbie and Oppenheimer. That's like, but it's, I mean, it's sad because most of the screenings were like 1 or 2 night or 3 night things, but
Yeah, well,
it
those are
got it
like, yeah.
it got week runs here and there, and I think that's just the way of the world. So, a lot of people have like, oh, I wanted to see it, but it came and went, and
Well, I saw that in Britain they have this new theater chain with like over 30 thing. What's the name of it? It was in
well,
the
there's
credits.
Everyman, and then there's
Right.
Lighthouse. Yeah,
Yeah,
those,
Everyman, something like that.
yeah, we screened with Everyman. They showed our film.
That's a
Uh,
good concept.
yeah, I mean, it's, what it's like. Everyman's like the Alamo Drafthouse model.
Yeah,
It's
I was
like
thinking it was probably like
it's
that.
like drinks and food, and but the problem was that we didn't get much press before it rolled out in the Everymans. So like some of the screenings were like massively successful. Like somehow when the world word got out, like we sold out three screenings, I think in Liverpool. You know, they
That's
moved into
cool.
the
Liverpool.
yeah, so they moved it to like the bigger theater, and but then it played in Dublin, and then people were emailing me saying, "Oh, I didn't know it was in Dublin. I would have went and saw." You know, so it was weird. It was hit and miss because the distributor kind of relied on Everyman to do all the press and
Uh,
publicity. So it was kind of weird because in some theaters, you know, the word got out and then it was like really, you know, successful. Like we did a screening with Lighthouse Cinemas, which is another chain in Cambridge, and I was over in London for that, and we sold out the screenings, and it was great. You know, it was really kind of amazing. You know, but it's hard now. I mean, especially like you know this. There's no Village Voice anymore, so like I don't
yeah,
know
that's
what's
so
going on.
sad. I mean,
It's like
everything's
don't know
crazy.
what's happening. Yeah.
I'm trying to build my publication off of the Village Voice principles. You know,
Mm.
one
Yeah.
of them was to have a mission. I do. I don't know if this will fly, but I mean, like for a name, I'm thinking that there should be a producers equity, um, because all independent filmmakers have to be producers now, and
Mm.
the AMPTP, which claims they're producers with the P on the end, they're
Yeah.
just not given a fair deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not even considering the filmmakers getting their money back. And
Yeah.
there's got
Yeah.
to be a bottom set so that
Yeah.
at least that much is coming for something. You're not going to roll off with all rights and chintzy it out and then not even guarantee it'll stay on the platform and then it'll
Mm.
disappear completely. There's a lot of things. We don't need a union or a guild to do it. We just need a consensus.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
that's
I think
the
it's
mission.
really, yeah, it's really tricky right now because I think, you know, I mean, it's the classic, you know, this has been this way since the 70s, right? When Coppola was complaining, you know, distribution is still the problem, you know,
Oh,
like
it's
if
always
it's,
going to be like
yeah,
that. Everything in the world has these little pipeline of distribute.
yeah,
They have to do a fair deal to keep the chicken laying the eggs.
yeah,
They're not,
yeah,
because they're starting to see some initiatives somewhere. But I think if all the indie producers just said, we're getting this as a bottom at least, we're
mm,
gonna have these rights with our product and all that. So
mm,
that's my mission. Village Voice's mission was to save Washington Square Park.
mm,
They
mm-hmm,
did from the nasty
mm,
great Robert Moses, right?
yeah,
And then
yeah,
they had the
yeah,
cartoon was Pfeiffer was the second one. The
yeah,
third
yeah,
one was the editor. He said, "Let the writers write," you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
And
yeah,
fourth, they went out and out newspaper distributed everybody. They got some tough guys out there. They got that paper everywhere,
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah. No,
Um,
it's, you know, and then now there's no timeout. Like, so it's really, you know, it means you just have to be on the email list for every single thing, you know, and
yeah,
then it's
we're
like,
gonna put all that stuff up. Right
yeah,
now, we ended up just covering films for a year. I just
yeah,
launched and my company, even though I've been around a while, in January 4th of last year, and I had all these plans to put this publishing empire, and everybody deserted me, so I had to do everything myself. One person gave me a few nice stories, but
uh,
so I just kept following the circuit. I have
yeah,
a category that says last 10-day run. It was done in June, and I've just been putting everything else on that. It was after Tribeca,
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
said,
yeah,
wow. I better stay with this or I'm going to lose the whole circuit. So
mm, yeah,
followed it
yeah,
through. And we doing 60 films.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
but the
yeah,
interviews, the transcriptions, etc., should work well.
yeah.
Now you
Well,
can put it into
it's
your
also,
editing software and it'll
yeah,
describe something that's reasonable. Take 3, 4 hours to clean up 40 minutes, but you
yeah,
don't pay anything. It used to be
yeah.
300, $400 for that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, I've used that Temi or whatever it is, Temu or whatever. But yeah, you know, I mean, and also our Blu-ray is going to be coming out in a few months, and then
Yeah,
it's going to
I
be
mean,
streaming for a
it's
while.
got
So
more life than I think people think. I think was
yeah.
it Disney that just sold their Blu-ray division to Sony.
Oh, really? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, Sony's still a relatively progressive company,
yeah.
and Universal Music Group, which is underwriting the other end of this film review with Mercury, that's really a spin-off from Mercury Records, correct? From way back?
I think so. I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. You know, and they've been great. I mean, I think you know everybody's been surprised. You know, at the reception. You know, I really think that they they had hopes and they liked the film, but they didn't realize like how much attention it was going to get. I think it's been able to go beyond the Pink Floyd fans. There's so many people that are going to see it that maybe knew a little bit about Syd Barrett but didn't know much. Jack White's record label, Third Man, just put out all the solo records as a boutique kind of release, and they sold out, I heard. So there's
Oh,
been all
Sid
this,
Records?
yeah, all of Sid's stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
First two solo albums, and then the
I
third,
didn't know Jack Black had a record label. That's cool.
or Jack White,
Jack
Jack White,
White, Jack White.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
Jack White, yeah. He's got a company, Third Man. They do sort of
That's a
high
great
end
film,
releases.
Third Man.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
So he's
from
kind of
all
he's kind of an interesting character, but so it's, yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's been, I always joke that I always make great films, but they come out at the wrong time. But this one seems
Mm,
to have
it's all timing.
this one
Well,
seems to have struck a chord.
that is cool.
Uh,
That's cool.
yeah.
That's another part
So,
of our mission is these idiots got to stop chasing their tail and saying, "Oh, well, it's an old film. It came out 2 months ago."
mm,
Everybody knows if you're indie, you're putting all this into it, you're going to make it as evergreen as possible.
yeah, yeah,
And it's like this stuff is old and they throw their marketing money for a week or whatever, and it's little, and then it's done, and another one comes, and nobody notices the film.
yeah,
It's not really fair to the films, not
yeah,
fair to the art. It's
yeah,
not productive for anybody, even the rich guys who own the business.
yeah,
They're just chasing their tails.
yeah.
It's
I think
not
you
the same model.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think you're right. I mean, I think I've been, you know, we got courted by Mercury for years. And so one of the things was that, that we're lucky is that everybody working on the film, we all really like them. And so they've been super positive. Even people that work at Universal and the people that work at Mercury, we've been working with some people that are
I,
under
I think
Universal and all that.
Universal Music Group is going to be one of the more important companies ever. And I think,
Hmm.
because of the way they dug their way in and bought music rights for 40 years, because they have
Hmm.
60%. I put together 3,000 songs of the best songs ever at the beginning of the pandemic, try to understand what made a hit. And, I think I got about half of all the best songs since 1950.
Hmm.
My algorithm is great on YouTube.
Huh.
It's dated a little bit though,
Yeah.
of course, but
But
I was
Universal
watching like
Music
on
Group owned all of it.
UMG. The fact that they didn't go on the American Stock Exchange is what saved them from the quarterly murder.
Huh. Yeah.
I think that because they're built on such a core of, intellectual property, you
Right.
know,
That's interesting.
that
Yeah.
it will, and the company will do, and people underrated it. I wanted to take a time, buy them, and then I didn't realize they weren't on the
Mm,
NYSE or Nasdaq.
mm,
They were
mm,
out there in Europe somewhere. It was a whole
mm,
different thing. Nobody wanted to hear about them still.
mm.
I think they own 60% of all the film songs ever.
That's
Sony owns
interesting.
about 20
Yeah.
or 25. It's
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
Yeah. That
Um,
is. Yeah. No, they've
I
been
think
great.
that, that
Everybody's.
that's behind this, so you should tap
Yeah.
into that for your next expensive feature. You
Yeah.
know, you should
I
be
know that's
a
they've.
hero at Universal Music Group.
I think that whatever sort of twists and turns of fate have happened. This. David, Roger, Nick, and Rick Wright's estate. They've all been super supportive. I don't know how much you know about Pink Floyd's, their battles, but all of them supported the film, been great. We had access. I mean, I should tell you this. This is important for you to understand. This film was made totally independently. We had no backing from the record label, no backing from Pink Floyd.
Really,
So all the music choice, and we cobbled together budgets over, you know, 10 years. I mean, so, Mercury came in at the end to just help us finish it. But
I
for
hope
10
they brought some
years,
music extra. That's probably one of the things they must
well,
have.
that was when most of our advance went to all the rights or whatever. But so it's like not, we
Uh,
didn't make a big chunk of change, but it was
did
fine.
they
But
give you a back end at least?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Theatrical, so that's good.
yeah,
That
yeah,
is
yeah,
good.
yeah. Once the advance is done, but it was all done independently. So all the music choices were mine. Like none of it was backed by. There's a lot of films where the labels are backing music based things, and they're trying to do the old placement thing and all that sort of stuff. But so this film was done totally independently,
You know what I
and
liked? We got about somewhere between 8 and 12 minutes, and we shouldn't go any further because we got a lot of good stuff, I think.
okay, good.
Um, the but remember, you should make this Tom Stoppard film because
Yeah,
you know
yeah, I'll think
I
about it.
think
Yeah.
I just saw the Tom Wolfe film and it was credible and decent, and
uh
Tino owns it, and I'm going to write about it.
uh
But and I learned a lot about Tom Wolfe. He was a hero to me.
yeah, I
But
don't know much about his life, huh? Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
I don't think it was an A film. It was a
Mm,
decent film. There's something that didn't have, you know, if it wasn't going to have a great structure, that was just like classic, it had
mm,
to be more like what you did, where you went deep in all different angles at it, you know.
mm,
I
mm.
mean, he's such a great writer. It was the last thing that I learned that taught me to be a pretty good writer was from Tom Wolfe and his
Huh.
three
Yeah.
dots and how he did the three dots. The
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
idea is to never have a connecting word in your sentences.
yeah,
You can use
yeah.
the three dots and the dash. I learned the dash in England, in Richmond. I was in Richmond for my junior year of college.
Huh.
I didn't know all that stuff was going on. I was just starting to learn things. It was just like
That's
smoking
interesting. Yeah,
pot or
yeah, yeah.
something. That
That's
Rod
funny. I
Stewart
forgot.
was living around the corner. One day, this party kept us up. I was in the big castle. I was
Huh.
just trying to get laid because there was 130 girls there and 30 guys. We were in a
Huh.
castle together, up at the top of the hill. You know, it was very nice for me.
That's
It really,
interesting. Yeah, yeah,
Richmond is a beautiful place. I
yeah.
think Jagger came from there too, and
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I haven't been there. So go to your last question. You're starting your
Okay, the one was
question. Yeah,
where
yeah.
I
You said
thought
there
it
was
was
one left.
neat the way it didn't pop up on the screen with the name of the person. You used the scene before to lead into them. You
Mm,
know, I didn't pick it up the first time I saw it, but the second
yeah.
time I saw how, you would have a quote from somebody talking about that, and their name would come up, and then they would appear. So you did it so that it timed perfectly, so you didn't have to stick the words up on the screen, David Gilmour or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
like that, I
yeah.
seemed
Well,
like you went
yeah,
to
that
the trouble of doing something a little more advanced, and
I
it's
think yeah,
better
no,
wrote.
it's really yeah, no, it's tricky. I mean, it's nice that you picked up on that. I mean, there was two things around the thinking of that. One was that there was a version where we had IDs on every place, and even Storm's film, his concert film, where the archival material was, right? And it made that cut almost to the very end that had all this. And then finally, I was watching it one day, and I called up my editor and I said, Karen, let's just strip all this off. I don't care if people know where this footage is from. I don't care if they know the exact address. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
too
yeah.
it's too visually, I mean, it's too visually disruptive, and it's like it's too busy. So we took all that off. And then the other thing that happened is my producer was talking to me one day and he was like, it's kind of, you know, I just want to throw this out there to you, Roddy. Like, you've got all these people that you've interviewed now talking about the past, and especially talking about how great Syd looked. And that, when I hung up the phone, that's when I got the idea. It's like, oh, I'm going to get photos of them when they were young.
Mm.
And so emailed everybody. And I said, can you send me an old picture? And then, that's when I played around with it, with putting that's how I came up with the lower third idea. But you're right. Absolutely. It spaces out the fact that you're not competing, listening and trying to figure out who they are at the same time, you know? And it just became a motif. I was just like, okay, this
Yeah, it
makes
was
it
a nice
simple.
one.
Yeah, it just makes it simpler, but your intuition's totally dead on, which is like it was just too much information. Once again, going back to that idea of what constitutes content, right? And
Yeah.
content could just be nothing, space in between, one bit, or just something with music or things like that, or just mood. Uh, and so that was really key to me, like in the end, because like I said at first, and it almost made it to the very end. We had, 157 Hills Road. We had da da da. And I was just like, you know what? I don't really care about any of that. It's just too, only the only people that would appreciate that would be the total hardcore Syd Barrett nuts that want everything exactly right. And I said, and you know what? There's going to be something wrong anyways, so
You
let's
really tell people
give
like
up.
that, some people, are fans and some people have fans.
Uh, yeah.
You're of the former type and I'm of the latter.
Uh,
It's the way.
yeah, 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 yeah,
I like
yeah.
the way you pulled the title out of that conversation too.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, that was really key because, the overarching thing is always like, what happened to him? Did he really blow his mind on LSD? Was he schizophrenic? And in interviewing everybody, we realized nobody really knew, because
yeah,
and it's interesting because, and that's back to the thing about memory. All of them saw him in different moments,
yeah.
there was really nobody that had a consistent, you know, experience with it. Even Storm saw him when he was, from a kid to about 15, 16, and then didn't see him for about 3 or 4 years when Pink
Yeah.
Floyd exploded. And I said to Storm, I said, Storm, those years are so critical, and look what happened to him. He's going to be a different person. So it's interesting. I mean, one thing that Storm and I talked about was we said that this film is kind of like a mosaic of memory too.
Yeah, yeah.
That there's all these bits
Alliterative
and
too,
pieces.
mosaic of memory. I'm gonna get that
Yeah,
in.
so
A
we talked.
mosaic of memory. Roddy Bogawa.
Yeah, we talked about, we tried to think about, ways to visualize structure, and the thing is, it's like, but I think you used this word earlier, which was key to me, of complexity. And to me, I always was like, if you're gonna do a film about someone's life, you should be two things. You should try and make it as creative they were, as they were, which is
Mm.
why you want to do it in the first place. And also you should treat them with complexity and respect the way they are. And shouldn't be, far be it from me to say I know exactly what happened, or I know exactly what the best,
His lyrics
you know,
were kind of alienated actually too. So as much as
yeah,
the revolution for utopia, there was still a base of alienation right there.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Dostoevsky stuff,
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah, I've had friends come up to me that are poets now that said, I became a poet because I listened to Madcap Laughs when I was an undergrad, and they
that's
saw,
interesting that
yeah,
despite
so
all
they,
everything, his solo albums like lived past him and everybody ignored them at the time. And
yeah,
then they end up hitting notes on people's lives.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
as
Yeah,
I'm glad I got to talk to you because there was so much, stuff there. You had those two psychiatrists too, also.
yeah, yeah. That was really kind of important, I think. The one guy is the head guy, was the ex-head of the Priory, which is the big kind of music rock star rehab place in
All
London. I mean,
right.
so there, so it was kind of key. We wanted to hear what they thought, about those things,
So what do you
not.
think of Jagger going? The true performer is the one who can achieve absolute madness at any
Yeah,
time. I
yeah,
mean, it leads them right in there, right? Just
yeah,
like a cash
exactly.
cow, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and it goes back to what I said earlier. This idea that these creative people found a way to express that. They get it out of, to exteriorize, whether it was turmoil. I think the one psychiatrist says a great thing: angels or devils, right? Whoever is
Yeah.
speaking to you, I really love that
Guess who's
bit,
playing a devil? It said in Hollywood Reporter yesterday in some Italian movie. I think it's Italian. Uh, Kevin Spacey's next.
Oh,
It,
I could see
that
that.
fits him
Yeah,
at this point.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
That'll retake him.
I think we're gonna run out of time, Scott.
Yeah.
I just got
So,
less.
what's the last thing that I missed that you want to say about this?
It's a compelling story, about, someone that's still thought of as the number one cult icon. And
Mm.
so there's always the mystery there, right? Of what if, what could have been. But I think I want it to be a trigger to think about bigger things.